There comes a moment when you get tired. Not tired from effort, but tired from reacting. Tired of caring about what doesn't deserve your care. Tired of explaining yourself to people who never listen. Tired of being pulled by every opinion, every rejection, every flicker of attention. That's the moment when transformation begins. Because when nothing and nobody can affect you anymore, you don't lose your humanity. You gain your power. Most people don't understand what strength actually means. They think it's loudness, aggression, the ability to fight back. But Machiavelli understood something deeper. The most dangerous man is not the one who shouts, but the one who stays silent while he decides. He reacts to nothing, but he notices everything. His power doesn't come from domination. It comes from detachment. He's not moved by praise, nor destroyed by insult. He is the stillness in a room full of storms. You want to reach that level? Then you must learn the discipline of indifference. Not ignorance, not carelessness. Indifference is clarity. It is the ability to look at something and say, "This does not deserve to move me." When you reach that level, life stops being an emotional battlefield. It becomes a chessboard. And you start playing to win, not to prove. That's what Machiavelli meant when he wrote that the prince must always appear calm, composed, and strategic, no matter the chaos beneath the surface. Emotion is weakness, reaction is surrender, and control is everything. Think about the last time someone tried to get under your skin. They insulted you, ignored you, betrayed you. You felt that familiar heat rise in your chest, that need to respond, to defend, to explain. That's the trap. Because the moment they pull a reaction from you, they own you. They may not have power over your body, but they've already conquered your mind. And Machiavelli would call that the greatest defeat. Not to lose your throne, but to lose your composure. The man who cannot control his reaction is already controlled by the world. He is predictable, readable, and easy to manipulate. And people will use that. They will learn which words break you, which silence panics you, which praise makes you desperate for more. You think you're being yourself, but really, you're being programmed. Your emotions are the buttons they press to make you move. You think you're strong because you fight back, but Machiavelli would tell you that's weakness disguised as passion. Because real power doesn't react. It decides. Indifference is not emptiness. It is precision. It's choosing your responses like a general chooses his battles. Carefully, strategically, coldly. Most people go to war over every insult. The wise man saves his weapons for the fight that matters. He lets the small attacks pass through him like air. He doesn't explain, doesn't argue, doesn't try to prove his worth to people who have already decided not to see it. He understands that silence often wounds more deeply than words ever could. You must learn this silence. You must train yourself to pause when the world demands your reaction. Because in that pause, you reclaim control. That is where your power lives, between impulse and action. That is where you stop being a puppet and start becoming a strategist. And when you master that gap, when you can stand in chaos and feel nothing but calm calculation, the world loses its grip on you. People will try to test you, provoke you, bait you. They will fail, because you will no longer play the emotional games they thrive on. You will no longer bleed for attention. You will no longer explain your silence. You will simply be. Controlled, composed, untouchable. Machiavelli once said that a ruler must learn not to be good, but to appear good when it serves him. The same truth applies to emotion. You must learn not to feel deeply, but to appear as though you do only when it benefits you. If charm will open doors, use it. If indifference will intimidate, embrace it.
If coldness will protect your peace, stay frozen. Because the goal is not to appear human. It is to remain in control while others lose themselves to their own emotions. People will call you distant, detached, unfeeling. Let them, because the man who needs nothing from anyone is the man everyone fears losing. You must become that man, not through arrogance, but through discipline. Not by rejecting emotion, but by mastering it. Because when you master your emotions, no one can use them against you. That is the first rule of being unaffected. Control yourself, or be controlled by everyone else. Control begins where emotion ends. Not because emotion is evil, but because it is unpredictable. Machiavelli understood that unpredictability is fatal to power. The one who cannot predict his own reaction is already ruled by his weakness. He can be provoked, he can be lured, he can be destroyed. But the man who feels everything yet reveals nothing, that man is untouchable. That man owns the room without speaking. That man is feared, even when he smiles. You must understand, emotional detachment is not about killing your feelings, it's about enslaving them. It's about taking what used to control you and forcing it to serve your strategy. Anger can be fuel if you command it. Sadness can be clarity if you direct it. Fear can be focus if you confront it. But if these emotions move on their own without your permission, they will expose you. And once you are exposed, you are no longer in power.
Most people believe they are logical. They think they make rational choices, but Machiavelli would laugh at that illusion. People are driven by emotion. Ambition disguised as logic, insecurity disguised as love, fear disguised as morality. They act, not because they choose to, but because they must. They are slaves to unseen impulses, chained to their own reactions. The wise man sees this, and he does not judge it, he uses it. To master others, you must first master yourself. You cannot control chaos if you are chaos. You cannot predict others if you are unpredictable to yourself. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must be like both the lion and the fox, powerful enough to strike, but clever enough to know when not to. Detachment is the art of knowing when not to. It is the refusal to fight battles that do not advance your rule. It is the refusal to give energy to insults that do not deserve attention. Because every time you react, you reveal yourself. And revelation is vulnerability. Your strength is in your mystery. People fear what they cannot understand. They respect what they cannot read. And they worship what they cannot control. That's why your goal should never be to convince anyone. It should be to confuse them. Let them misinterpret your silence. Let them wonder if you care. Let them drown in their own assumptions while you stay still. Because power is not proven through reaction, it's proven through restraint. But restraint is not natural. It must be built through repetition, through brutal self-discipline. Every time someone provokes you and you stay silent, you win a war inside yourself. Every time someone leaves you and you don't chase, you strengthen your foundation. Every time you're insulted and you say nothing, you remind the world that you answer to no one. These small acts of control, they are your training. They forge the armor that no betrayal, no rejection, no humiliation can pierce. And when you begin to practice this, you will feel something strange, a calm that others mistake for coldness. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you've become distant, hard, emotionless. But that's not true. You've simply stopped wasting your emotions on things beneath your level. You've stopped allowing every minor disturbance to rewrite your mood. That's not distance. That's evolution.
Machiavelli would call it strategic composure. To appear calm even when the world is collapsing, that is royal energy. That is the posture of someone who owns himself completely. The people who try to shame you for being calm are the ones who can't control themselves. They want you emotional because that's the only way they can reach you. They want you reactive because that's the only way they can win. Never give them that satisfaction. Never let them see you flinch. If you must show emotion, make it intentional. If you must express anger, make it precise. Never let your emotions spill, let them strike. Emotion, when controlled, becomes a weapon sharper than any sword. But emotion unleashed is a chain that drags you into weakness. The art of detachment is the art of observation. You begin to notice patterns. You begin to see that most conflicts are just noise. People arguing for attention. People projecting their insecurities. People trying to pull you into their chaos because they can't stand your calm. Your silence becomes your power. Your distance becomes your defense. Because nothing disarms a manipulator faster than realizing their tricks no longer work. This is where you rise above the crowd. They chase reactions. You choose responses. They look for validation. You look for clarity. They want to be liked. You want to be in control. And the irony is, once you stop needing to be liked, people will respect you more. Once you stop needing attention, you'll attract it naturally. Because control radiates. It commands without effort. It draws people in, not because you ask for their attention, but because they can't stop trying to understand you. Machiavelli knew that the appearance of emotion could be useful, but emotion itself is fatal. Appear passionate when it serves your cause, but never be passionate without purpose. Smile when it benefits you. Laugh when it disarms them. Show empathy when it manipulates perception, but when the mask drops, remain cold, deliberate, untouched. That's not deceit. That's survival. Because in a world ruled by illusion, the one who controls the illusion controls the world. You will lose some people when you master detachment. You will lose the ones who fed on your reactions, who thrived on your chaos, who needed your emotions to feel relevant. Let them go. Every departure makes you stronger. Every silence sharpens your focus. Every rejection reminds you that you never needed them in the first place. Because when nothing and nobody can affect you, you become something rare, a presence that cannot be shaken. And once you taste that kind of peace, you'll never go back to being ordinary.
There is a level of strength beyond confidence, beyond composure. It's immunity. Immunity is not pretending to be strong. It's becoming unshakable. It's the moment when no insult moves you, no betrayal surprises you, and no loss breaks you. It's when the world still moves around you, but it cannot move through you. That is Machiavellian power in its purest form. Not to control the world, but to be untouchable by it. People think the opposite of emotion is coldness, but that's wrong. The opposite of emotion is clarity. When you reach clarity, you don't react, you analyze. You stop asking, why did they do this to me? And you start asking, what does this reveal about them? That shift changes everything. Because now, pain becomes information. Rejection becomes data. Betrayal becomes a lesson. You stop taking things personally, and you start taking them strategically. This is the mindset Machiavelli lived by. He never wasted emotion on outrage or disappointment.
He studied people the way a surgeon studies anatomy. Every gesture, every word, every silence. He knew that most people are predictable when you understand their motives. They speak of loyalty while plotting advantage. They act kind when they need something. They praise you to lower your guard. The weak trust words. The wise read patterns, because patterns never lie. You must become a student of patterns. Watch how people behave when they have nothing to gain. Watch how they speak of others when they think you're not listening. Watch who gets silent when you succeed. That silence speaks louder than any betrayal. Machiavelli would tell you, those moments reveal everything. They show you who envies you, who fears you, and who will eventually turn on you. The Machiavellian mind doesn't wait for betrayal, it anticipates it. It prepares for it long before it happens. That's not paranoia, that's protection. Immunity is built through exposure, not avoidance. You must see the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. You must let yourself witness the cruelty, the selfishness, the masks. Because when you stop expecting goodness from everyone, you stop being surprised by evil. And when you stop being surprised, you stop being broken. The naive suffer most because they still believe people mean what they say. They still believe promises are sacred. They still believe love always equals loyalty. But Machiavelli knew better. The world rewards those who prepare for disappointment before it arrives. When you expect betrayal, you remain calm when it happens. When you expect manipulation, you don't react, you record. You become a quiet observer in a world of chaos. And that's how you gain psychological dominance. Because while others lose themselves in reaction, you remain in strategy. You begin to see what they cannot, that every insult is a confession. Every act of cruelty is insecurity in disguise, and every betrayal is an opportunity to reposition yourself more intelligently. Immunity is not a wall, it's a filter. It's not about blocking everyone out, but about letting only what's useful in. Let lessons in, let wisdom in, let strength in, but let everything else die at the gates of your mind. You do not owe your peace to anyone. You do not owe your reaction to anything. You owe yourself the discipline of calm. Because calm is not weakness, it's command. Silence is your sharpest weapon. The weak panic when misunderstood. The strong let others guess. The weak explain their pain. The strong turn it into patience. Machiavelli would say, let them wonder what you're thinking, because confusion is leverage. When people can't read you, they can't prepare for you. And when they can't prepare for you, they lose control. The most powerful man is not the loudest. He's the one whose silence forces others to speak too much. You must learn the art of being unreadable, not cold, but contained. That your face reveal nothing, your tone betray nothing, your emotions expose nothing. Smile when they expect anger. Stay calm when they expect chaos. Be kind when they expect cruelty. This unpredictability terrifies people. It breaks their rhythm. It makes them cautious, uncertain, off balance. And that's when you win, not through confrontation, but through confusion. The truth is, the world will always try to decode you. They'll study your reactions to see where you are weak. They'll test your silence to see if it's strength or fear. They'll push, provoke, manipulate, and observe. But the one thing they must never discover is what truly affects you. Because once they do, they own you. so hide your heart behind strategy. Let only the wise see fragments of it, because the fewer people who know you deeply, the safer your soul becomes. This is the paradox of power. The more detached you are, the more people are drawn to you. They sense the calm. They crave it. They mistake your distance for depth. They think your silence hides secrets, and they're right, because what you've built inside cannot be touched from the outside. That is immunity. To walk through the world untouched, not because the world is kind, but because you no longer need it to be. That is the crown Machiavelli wanted every man to wear, not gold, but composure, not given by others, but forged in solitude. Because when nothing and nobody can affect you, you rule not through fear or fame, but through mastery of self.
There is one truth few are willing to face. Most of your suffering doesn't come from what happens to you. It comes from what you need from others. You don't break because they left. You break because you needed them to stay. You don't suffer because they insulted you. You suffer because you needed their approval to feel certain of yourself. That is the real trap, not pain, but dependence. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He wrote that a ruler who depends on the loyalty of others is already their servant. That dependence doesn't just apply to kingdoms, it applies to emotions. If you rely on someone else to give you peace, you've already given them power. If you rely on someone's praise to feel worthy, you've already given them control. You may call it love, you may call it trust, but Machiavelli would call it submission. Freedom begins where dependency ends. To become unaffected, you must destroy the illusion that anyone owes you anything, not love, not loyalty, not understanding. Because the moment you believe they do, you place your peace in their hands. And people are careless with what they didn't build. They'll drop it, lose it, or use it against you when it serves them. The only safe place for your peace is within yourself. This is why solitude is sacred. It's not loneliness, it's training. It's where you confront every need you used to project onto others. You begin to realize you don't actually need validation. You crave it because it distracts you from silence. You don't need attention. You chase it because it hides your fear of being invisible. You don't need love to survive. You need strength to remain whole when it disappears. Solitude teaches you this. It strips you of illusions until only your essence remains, strong, silent, complete. Most people never reach this level because they are terrified of being alone. They fear silence because silence forces them to hear their own weakness. They keep noise around them, people, conversations, distractions, just to avoid seeing how fragile they are without it. But the Machiavellian mind welcomes silence, because silence is the forge where control is created. It's where you learn to be your own companion, your own strength, your own validation. It's where you stop chasing and start choosing. When you no longer need anyone to complete you, you become magnetic. Because now every connection you have is by choice, not necessity. You don't love out of fear of being alone. You love because it aligns with your peace. You don't help others to be praised. You help because it serves your strategy. You don't stay in anyone's life because you're afraid to lose them. You stay because it makes sense to. That's what real power looks like. The ability to walk away without hesitation, to detach without bitterness, to remain unchanged in the face of absence. Machiavelli would tell you, need is leverage, and whoever can create need in others controls them. The world operates on this principle. Politicians, lovers, friends, employers, all use dependency as invisible chains. They give you comfort, then make you afraid to lose it. They give you validation, then make you chase it. They give you affection, then make you perform for it. But the man who no longer needs any of it cannot be owned. He becomes the one they chase, the one they try to please, the one they try to understand, because power always flows toward independence. You must learn to find satisfaction in isolation. Sit alone without panic, work without applause, build without witnesses, and when the world forgets you, stay steady. Because the goal is not to be remembered by everyone. The goal is to remember who you are without anyone. That's where indifference becomes absolute, not the absence of feeling, but the absence of dependency. No one can take what you don't give. No one can destroy what doesn't rely on them to exist. This doesn't mean you reject human connection. It means you no longer collapse when it's gone. You don't beg for closure, you create it. You don't chase explanations, you replace them with understanding. You don't lose yourself in the presence of others, you stay rooted in your solitude. That's not coldness, that's control. Because when you stop relying on others for meaning, you become meaning itself. You become self-sustained, self-contained, self-commanded. And that is something no betrayal, no rejection, no failure can ever take from you.
You see, Machiavelli's philosophy was never about cruelty, it was about realism. He understood that a man who depends on the world for happiness is a man already enslaved by it. The world changes, people change, but the one thing that must never change is your foundation. Your peace must remain constant.
You see, Machiavelli's philosophy was never about cruelty. It was about realism. He understood that a man who depends on the world for happiness is a man already enslaved by it. The world changes, people change, but the one thing that must never change is your foundation. Your peace must remain constant regardless of who comes, who goes, or who turns against you. That's the real game. Not dominance over others, but dominance over yourself. When you build your inner world strong enough, solitude becomes your palace, silence becomes your ally, and indifference becomes your crown. People can love you or hate you, praise you or curse you. It makes no difference. Because you've built something they can't touch, a mind that answers to no one. That is sovereignty. And once you possess it, no one can ever own you again. At the end of all this, what remains? Not bitterness, not arrogance, but stillness. Stillness is the signature of the sovereign mind. It is the calm that comes when you no longer fight battles that don't deserve your energy. It is the quiet confidence that grows when you no longer seek to be understood. It is the silence of someone who has seen enough, felt enough, and learned that nothing external is worth internal chaos. When Machiavelli wrote The Prince, he wasn't writing for the emotional man. He was writing for the man who wanted to win, not in theory, but in reality. He knew that morality and kindness are beautiful ideals, but they crumble without control. He knew that love, loyalty, and trust are fragile currencies in a world driven by self-interest. So he taught the ultimate lesson. Before you can rule others, you must rule yourself. Before you can command loyalty, you must command emotion. And before you can be untouchable, you must destroy the parts of you that crave to be touched by everyone. To be unaffected is not to feel nothing. It is to choose when, how, and for whom you feel. It is to let your emotions serve your purpose, not sabotage it. The world will always test this. It will throw distractions, betrayals, and flattery at you. Some will try to break you through cruelty, others will try to weaken you through praise, but both serve the same goal.
to control your reaction. And when you no longer give it, you become something rare. A presence that cannot be moved, a mind that cannot be manipulated, a man who cannot be owned. Understand this, being unaffected does not mean being detached from life. It means being engaged on your own terms. It means you can stand in fire and remain composed. It means you can lose everything material and still walk with dignity. Because your power no longer comes from what you have, it comes from who you are. And who you are is someone no one can shake. The Machiavellian man doesn't need validation. He validates himself through mastery. He doesn't seek revenge. His indifference is punishment enough. He doesn't announce his plans. His silence becomes strategy. He doesn't chase people. He attracts them through composure. He doesn't beg for peace. He creates it. And when he speaks, it is never to defend, only to direct. Because the king doesn't argue, the king commands. The highest form of power is not domination, it's detachment. It's being able to look at everything you once feared to lose and feel nothing but calm observation. Because now you understand nothing that truly belongs to you can be taken, and nothing that can be taken ever truly belonged to you. You stop chasing, and everything begins to come to you. Not because of magic, but because calm attracts and chaos repels. You become the still point in a spinning world, and the still point always controls the movement. This world will tell you to be open, to share, to be vulnerable. And yes, openness has its beauty, but only when it's chosen, never when it's demanded. Because most people don't want to understand you, they want access. And access is power. Machiavelli would say, grant it rarely, observe constantly, and trust selectively. Let people think they know you, but never give them your essence. Keep your mind private, your plans hidden, your emotions guarded. Because mystery is not distance, it's defense. You must also understand that peace is not something you find once and keep forever. It is something you rebuild daily. Every insult ignored, every temptation resisted, every reaction denied, every silence chosen. That is how power is maintained, not through moments of strength, but through consistency of control. Every time you remain calm when the world expects rage, you remind yourself that you own yourself. Every time you smile when they expect sadness, you prove that no one dictates your state. And that, Machiavelli would say, is the essence of a ruler, to rule not a nation, but one's own nature. When you live like this, people will call you mysterious. They'll say you've changed, that you're colder, harder, distant. Let them speak. They only say that because they can no longer read you. And what they cannot read, they cannot use. You have become something they fear, a mind they can't control. And fear, Machiavelli wrote, is more reliable than love, because love is given freely, but fear keeps its distance. Fear respects boundaries. Fear never takes what isn't offered. So walk through this world quietly. Let others reveal themselves through noise. You reveal yourself through stillness. Let others scream for attention. You remain focused on legacy. Let others chase illusions of importance. You build reality through discipline. Because when all the noise fades, and it always does, the only thing that remains is who you've become when nobody could shake you. That is what it means to be unaffected. Not lifeless, but limitless. Not cold, but composed. Not emotionless, but emotionally invincible. You will still love, you will still care, but you will never need. You will still feel, but never fall apart. Because you have trained your mind to be your fortress, and your silence to be your sword. So when they betray you, you will not break. When they ignore you, you will not chase. When they insult you, you will not react. When they leave you, you will not beg. You will stand still and sovereign, watching it all pass, untouched, unmoved, unaffected. Because you understand now what Machiavelli meant all along. Power is not about ruling others. It's about ruling yourself so completely that the world can no longer touch you. You don't just survive, you transcend. You don't just endure, you evolve. You don't just exist, you command. And when you reach that point, when no one and nothing can affect you anymore, you will not need to tell the world who you are. Your silence will say it for you. Because you are not moved by storms. You are the storm.